Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today we're going to be taking notes on pages 57, 58, and 59. If you need to, please remember to add the title to the section. It's Chapter 13-1, Genetic Engineering Notes. You are going to be taking them in Cornell format, so make sure you put the line according to how many notes you take. Please make sure you leave more space for notes than you do questions. You can always make the questions a little bit longer. And make sure you leave yourself plenty of space to do outlining and so forth. Please remember to Cornell your notes because you will lose substantial credit when we correct the notebook if you don't do so at the onset of taking notes. And I am recording these on February 10th. So you can date yours February 10th or February 11th because that's the day that we're taking these notes. So, selective breeding. Today we're going to be talking about what we do in order to change what nature to fit our needs better. Selective breeding is reproducing with choice and only allows those organisms with desired characteristics to produce the next generation. So, in selective breeding, only certain individuals will be allowed to produce organisms for the next generation. Nearly all domesticated animals and most crop plants have been produced by selective breeding. So long ago, our ancestors figured out that, hey, we don't want the ones that are small. We don't want the ones that don't do what we want them to do. The ones that bite us. We don't want the ones that are scrawny. We don't want the ones that don't produce enough fruit. We did this for both plants and animals long ago, which is why today we see some very strange looking dogs, as well as some plants that never exist in nature and that are tolerant to different things. So when we talk about selective breeding, we are talking about domestication. Farmers did it long before they knew what they were doing, that it was actually science. Um, a lot of people did not understand, but basically, our grocery stores are full of basic things that don't exist in nature. Watermelons are not supposed to be that big. None of the fruits that we actually see at our supermarkets are supposed to be that big in nature. If you've ever planted your own tomato plant, unless you buy something that's already been selectively bred, those seeds do not come from anything that's found in nature. And it's been selectively bred, and then on top of that, we mess with it even more. So we're going to talk about what selective breeding is right now and how it happens in nature, and then we're going to later on talk about how we've changed it over the years. Okay, like I said, the purpose of selective breeding is basically we breed things, humans breed things to pass on the desired traits to the next generation. So our thing is we want the things that we like, we to go move on. The things that we don't like the things, like I said, the things that bite or the things that don't produce what we want them to produce, we don't want them to continue on. So we don't let those have offspring. Whereas we do the ones that have the characteristics that we like, um, color or amount of fruit they produce or size of fruit or size of organism or animal or color of the animal or color of the eyes or whatever, we generally those are the ones that we want to breed. So those that's what selective breeding is, breeding for desired traits. Selective breeding takes advantage of already naturally occurring traits, so the things have to be there in order for us to pick them out. That's really important. With the primitive way of doing that, or the way humans figured it out in the first place, is because we picked the ones that we saw did better for us or that we liked more stuff of. So those things were already there. We didn't create more things at that point. These things occur in organisms, or these differences occur in organisms due to genetic variation that occurs naturally. So in nature, there are differences in the same species. Like there's some green peas, some orange, green, yellow peas, wrinkled peas, smooth peas. If we're talking about peas, we get tall pea plants, short pea plants, or we talk about a flower that's yellow or a flower that's purple or a flower that's red. Those things are just in nature. They're natural differences. So in what we do in selective breeding is that we single out these natural differences, the ones that we like, and we breed those together and don't let the other ones come in. Okay, that's what selective breeding is. And there's two types of selective breeding. There's hybridization and inbreeding. Okay, and I'll talk about both of those in just a moment. So, This is an individual, a place that actually breeds these things called labradoodles and golden doodles, and they're able to create these organisms because they're picking out the traits of both of basically two different types of characteristics from these two different types of dogs that they like, and they're breeding them together to create these new kind of dogs. So, a Labradoodle and a Golden Doodle. Labradoodle is a hybrid between a female Labrador Retriever and a male poodle. A Golden Doodle is a hybrid between a female Golden Retriever and a poodle. Doodles inherit wonderful traits from these two breeds: intelligence, trainability, loyalty, and they tend to be non shedding. Doodles love people and are generally friendly with everyone. They love to play, enjoy water and snow, and are very affectionate. Doodles have a friendly, loyal temperament and are great with children. So, people like these. They're really people that have allergies and that really want dogs. They can actually own these. I believe the first family has one of these. Uh, they're great for people with allergies and they're really fun dogs. So that's why they basically get the best thing of both worlds because the people that had allergies and that wanted a dog would always have to get a poodle. While poodles have like a really skittish personality and they're not very friendly and they're horrible with kids, and they're thin and they're people didn't poodles were just like you had to love dogs to want a poodle. Um, Golden retrievers, very friendly, bigger dogs, really nice, but they shed like crazy. So, and Labrador retrievers also, they're very nice, happy dogs, but and love kids and have these wonderful characteristics, but they tend to shed a lot. Whereas if you breed them with a poodle, the poodles don't have that shedding characteristic, and they wind up getting many of the temperaments that go with the bigger dogs combined with the non-shedding of a poodle, and you get these new this new breed that basically that has these great characteristics that a lot of people like. So, hybridization, crossing of different individuals to bring together the best of both organisms. That's what it is. You cross two individuals from a population that already have the traits there. The traits should already be there. We don't create new traits generally, and especially in animals. We have to find the trait that we like from that already exists in nature. And then we cross them together. We get them to get by crossing, they make babies. And then the hybrids, those are the babies that are the results of that cross. The individuals produced by such crosses are often stronger than either parents. And we generally see that a lot because when we mix different DNA together and it actually sticks together and we create organisms like that, a lot of the bad things don't get translated and transcribed and translated into proteins. So the proteins aren't made for the bad things because the good things are making all the good ones are all usually being read, and usually much stronger. So generally, organisms that have different types of DNA are generally stronger because even if they inherit something bad, they wind up with something good, and the good kind of overshadows the bad one. So that's why hybridization is important. Then you've got, and you'll see the pop up of the nice little dog there. That's another unfortunate hybridization. Um, they actually got some mutations, mutated dogs. They actually did this on purpose. They wanted to create a dog that was really ugly, and they succeeded they found this weird dog that had been born with like no hair, and they bred it together with another dog that didn't have any hair, and they kept on like breeding these dogs together until they got this perfectly ugly dog. So people do all kinds of funny things for very strange reasons. So we're talking about inbreeding. After you do selective breeding, where you select the traits that you really want to breed together and you get them to mate and produce offspring, so we call those offspring hybrid. Once we have the hybrids, then you have to breed those hybrids together because you don't want to breed them with something else. You don't want that hybrid to go breed again with with another dog, golden retriever, or another poodle, because then you'll wind up with more characteristic poodle, less of the golden retriever or labradoodle or labrador. You don't want them to go back and breed again with the original ones, either one, because then you'll start losing the uniqueness that you want. So you want to keep the hybrids isolated from the originals and continue breeding those together. This ensures that the characteristics that make each breed unique, in other words, that we want, will be saved. So it ensures that to make sure that it makes sure that we keep what we made. It doesn't get blended again with an original. Unfortunately, this risks serious genetic problems that can result from excessive inbreeding. Anyone here that owns pure breeds are have problems because that's how you get them. You wind up breeding to get like true Chihuahuas. Many breeders will get mother with son or mother with, yeah, basically close relatives, brothers and sisters, mothers with sons. And unfortunately, when there's all the DNA starts looking very much alike, an unfortunate side effect is that many of the mistakes start getting transcribed and translated into proteins that are bad. So that's an unfortunate side effect of inbreeding because if there's a lot of mistakes in the genes and those genes are just being shuffled around over and over, generally if you get different DNA, it'll cover over the mistakes. But if you start just mistake with other combining mistakes with other mistakes, oh my goodness, you wind up with all these weird side effects. Like for example, what do you call those animals? Um, German Shepherds, they have horrible hips because as you inbreed them, they wind up with this walk that's more like skulking. And that actually, they get tremendous hip problems as they age. They will probably need a hip replacement. So, but increasing variation. Why might breeders try to induce or cause mutations? Well, the reason is because breeders increase the genetic variation in a population by inducing or causing mutations. So they basically irradiate, they use radiation, they'll use chemicals to increase variation. Unfortunately, this is very, very lethal to animals. So this is something we don't try on animals. If you want to create different weird species, you do not put radiation on them. You'll wind up with like a genetic anomaly. It's been tried, and you wind up, I mean, on flies. Flies in the 20s, people were like, "Oh, let's increase variation in flies." They were just doing testing, and they wound up creating flies with two heads and no tails, wings coming out where their eyes are supposed to be. That's how we figured out a lot of things, but it was like really weird. And this is flies. They were mutating flies with radiation, and that's what was happening. Animals, the only place that it's really been tried with animals are after nuclear explosions. And if you know about Chernobyl, a lot of babies were exposed to radiation, or parents that were pregnant were exposed to radiation, or adults before that had eggs and sperm inside of them were exposed to radiation. And what happened was that when they actually got pregnant and produced an offspring, the offsprings had these great mutations, like the heart being born in the wrong place. We just If you've ever seen that video, and it's horrible. I saw it on TV one time, and it's like I won't even show it because it's just so heart-wrenching to see those little babies that can't. Some of them were even born with no digestive system. I mean, just seriously bad mutations. So there's a good reason why we do not put other organisms with radiation. We see horrible, horrible mutations. So we do this on plants. Okay, so we increase variation. Mutations occur spontaneously, but breeders can increase the mutation rate by using chemicals and radiation. So I just spoke to that. Breeders can often produce a few mutants with desirable characteristics that are not found in the original population. And once again, please understand, this is not a technique used on animals. It is used primarily to produce more plant species. So plant like the that's why we have those weird flowers at the grocery store that you can find that you cannot grow in your backyard. Um, those roses that you see, long-stemmed roses. Those were all like radiation. They caused mutations from radiation. They did all kinds of weird mutation by chemicals and radiation. They do that to plants. Plants are tougher. They can take that kind of radiation and still produce these weird offspring, and they can do it. But um, animals are not very good at that. They all will also be using, they also use this kind of radiation and chemical alteration in bacteria. Bacteria replicate every 20 minutes, so like the ones that won't make it will just like die. They're single cells, so it's really easy. And they've got really easy, they only have one string of DNA that's round with no nucleus, so it's really easy to mutate them. So we've also tried chemical mutation as well as radiation mutation to mutate a bacteria, and some of them have been really successful, as I'll show you guys in the next slide. Increasing variation, but by producing new kinds of bacteria. So we've actually created bacteria that have a mutation that allows them to clean up oil spills. So now we have this bacteria that eats oil. Now in nature, these do not exist, but this bacteria can eat oil, which is something that the oil companies are really interested in because some of their leaks are huge and they're horrible for the environment. And if we can get this bacteria out there into those oil spill areas, it would really help us out to clean out everything because those oil companies, when those tankers explode, when those offshore oil drilling stations explode, it's a horrible disaster out there. And that's what's propelled the development of these. So these are human created. Um, and basically we were able to make them by actually causing mutations to happen until we got what we wanted. Producing new kinds of plants is also, like I said before, mutations in some plant cells produce cells that have been double or triple the normal number of chromosomes. So they have like polyploidy. So they have like several copies. Like the strawberries that we have nowadays. I mean, look at this strawberry in the picture. It's huge. It's like the palm of someone's hand. But many of the strawberries that we have in our supermarkets, our bananas, all of basically everything you see in the grocery store, this has been done to it because it's huge compared to what you can grow in your yard. You cannot grow this kind of strawberry unless you buy special kind of seeds. You cannot grow a big regular sized tomato unless you buy the seed that has been treated this way. So polyploidy, this condition is known as polyploidy and produces new species of plants that are often larger and stronger than their diploid relatives. Polyploidy in animals is usually deadly or fatal. And this is why we don't try to do this, irradiate or chemically mutate animals, because this is generally the result of treating them with chemicals. In plants, they become stronger. If you get 2 copies, 3 copies of the DNA, 4 copies, you're only supposed to get one from mom and one from dad. 2 copies of the DNA. 3 copies in a plant makes you stronger. 4 copies makes you even stronger. 5 copies makes you even stronger. These cannot produce eggs or pollen. They cannot reproduce these plants, but you can you can buy seeds that have this many copy and plant them. Roses are basically this. All roses are this because the original roses that grow from nature only have like 8 um, petals. The roses that we grow in our yards have hundreds of petals, and the ones that they actually grow for selling at Valentine's Day, those have like a ton of petals. So the more copies of the set that you get, like 8, 10 copies, you wind up with more petals. So they figured that out. So now we can buy seeds and plant them. Those of you that have ever grown um, roses for your yard, you have to actually buy the stock. It already has to be growing. You can't just plant a rose seed. No, you don't do that. They can drop as many seeds as they want, but they're such freaks of nature that you actually have to get a piece of it and plant that and that'll grow. You have to get a piece of the root. So if you ever buy a rose, you have to actually it already has to be growing. It already has to be a cutting from an already existing rose. So you generally, when you mutate plants, they'll survive, but animals will not survive. It's really, really bad. Okay, so hopefully you've got enough information from these notes and you understand what selective breeding is and variation and how we use humans use natural variation to selectively breed what we want and then increase more by allowing them to reproduce amongst themselves, and how in we also use radiation and chemicals on plants and bacteria to develop characteristics that we want to. So both things were spoken about here. Hopefully you've gotten these notes on pages 57, 58, and if you needed to, use 59. If you did not use 59, you can go ahead and just put blank page for 12, 13 OneNotes. And then what you can also do is now start highlighting and annotating these notes, underlining things that maybe were underlined in these notes, making sure you've got all the vocabulary for the section added onto the section. Um, and generally make sure that you get your summary in and everything else, and make sure you get these notes signed before you leave the class today.